Is the body clothed?
Nope.
No clothes at all?
No clothes at all.
On June 22nd, 1982, the nude body of a woman was found floating face down in the waters of the Rouge River, more than 24 hours after she'd been murdered. Although she was quickly identified, the reason for her brutal murder and the identity of her attacker still remain a mystery. The police are asking for your assistance in solving this crime. About 7:15 a.m. on Tuesday, the day after the murder, some people from Scarborough were traveling along Sewell's Road on their way to work. Some of them looked down and saw a partially submerged body in the water. This is where it happened. This is just west of Sewell's Road, about a half-mile north of Finch. A number of different people saw and reported their observations to the police, either after arriving at their destinations or by getting to a payphone. Calls were received by both Metro and Durham Regional Police.
I biked to work as usual along this road up Sewell's, and as I crossed the bridge, I spotted the body down just about 40 feet from the bridge, and I was kind of shocked at first, but I biked to work, and someone there phoned the police.
Investigative units from 42 and 43 Division were notified, as well as the Metro Homicide Squad. The first officer to arrive at the scene was Constable Barton Moreton of 42 Division at about 10 to 8. As reported, there was a nude body lying in about 3 feet of water. A thorough search of the area was started, assisted by Staff Inspector Turner and Inspector Soplet. At 10:15 in the morning, the body was pronounced dead by Assistant Coroner Charles Robson, and at approximately 10:35 a.m., the body was moved under the bridge. A body had been discovered and then recovered by the police. Now, there were two obvious questions. Who was the victim, and why was she murdered? In fact, the police had a pretty good idea of who she was soon afterwards. Turned out that a 25-year-old woman had been reported missing on Monday, June 21st. Employers of a British nanny who lived and worked here on Pinewood Avenue called police at 7:30 that day to report her missing. The police conducted a search of the third-floor bedroom of the missing person. Everything was neat and orderly, and all the employees' clothes and suitcases were there. The rest of the house and grounds were checked by the owners, and a detailed check of area number 7, which includes Pinewood and Maplewood Avenues and Vaughan Road, was concluded. Earlier that day, Anelia Wycheck left home at 6:30 a.m. for work at the St. Joseph's Hospital Laundry Department. When she got to number 18 Pinewood, she saw an umbrella lying on the roadway. It was described as being mostly red in color, and Mrs. Wycheck picked it up, opening it on St. Clair Avenue. She discovered that it didn't work properly, so she put it into the doorway leading to number 686 St. Clair and continued on to work. Tell me what happened that morning.
I was going for a walk, and I saw the umbrella, so I picked it up, and I took it home with me.
The umbrella had yet to be identified as belonging to the missing British nanny, and only a positive identification could link the body found in the river with any missing persons. At 12:40 p.m. on the day the body was discovered, it was taken to the laser identification room here at OPP headquarters. OPP forensic analyst Brian Dalrymple explains the technique of laser fingerprinting.
The bright blue light of the argon laser is very useful in causing some fingerprints to fluoresce. This fluorescence can be photographed directly on the body by use of special filters, which also are worn over the eyes to protect them. The argon laser technique is also useful in using first because only light touches the body and there are no effects which would interfere with subsequent techniques used. The next technique after the laser technique would be the iodine silver plate transfer technique. In this particular method, iodine vapor is fumed onto the body, and any sebaceous oil present in fingerprints will trap that vapor for a short period of time. A plate of pure silver is then pressed to the surface of the skin, and hopefully there is a transfer of the fingerprint onto the silver plate. When this silver plate is exposed to bright light, it will turn dark and become visible. The next technique we would use after the iodine silver plate technique is the use of Magnum brush powder. This would be done by directly applying the fingerprint powder to the body in the conventional manner of developing fingerprints. As this leaves powder on the body, it should be the last technique to be used.
At 4 o'clock that afternoon, Dr. John Hilsden Smith started the postmortem. Doctor, what were the results of your examination?
There were injuries about the head in the form of lacerations or splits of the skin.
How do you think they were caused?
By some form of blunt instrument, by the nature of the injury. In this case, possibly by rocks or stones, something of that sort.
What did you determine was the cause of death?
There was some evidence that she had been sexually abused, and as a result of tests done after the autopsy on tissues of the body, it was established that the cause of death was drowning. Briefly, this is done by looking for microscopic forms of plant life in the body, which gain access to the bloodstream during the drowning episode. And in this case, these were found, and therefore drowning was established as the cause of death. And this was then corroborated by testing water in that area, which showed the same types of diatoms or microscopic forms of plant life.
Emil Kruzek, the nanny's employer, positively identified the body. It was Christine Prince. Her parents were telephoned in South Wales. Christine had been employed by the Kruzek family since September 1981. She was a quiet, good worker and considered very much a part of the Kruzek family by her employers. She had a boyfriend, David Curtis Smith, with whom she intended to return to England.
I first met Christine on about the 3rd of April 1982 at a bar called the Walrus and Carpenter Pub.
What was her social life like?
Well, when she didn't have to babysit 3 or 4 times a week, she might come down and meet me after work. We planned on getting engaged this coming September.
To your knowledge, did she meet up with anyone the night she went missing?
No, there was the 3 of us. There was Christine and Gloria and myself. But we didn't meet up with anyone else.
And when did you learn she was missing?
It was about 10 past 8 the next morning. Emil Kruzek, her employer, called me and asked if Christine had spent the night at my home, because she wasn't at their place. Well, I guess I was more than a little concerned. I got dressed and went straight up to the house. I got there, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later maybe. And sometime after that, I talked to the police, told them what she was wearing. And after that, I went for a walk in the park.
On Sunday evening, June 20th, 1982, Christine and a girlfriend had gone to a movie at a theater near Yonge and Bloor. Once the movie had ended, Christine and her friend, Gloria Betts, also a nanny, met David at around 11:30 p.m. They went to the St. George donut shop between St. George and Spadina and remained there until about 1:10 a.m. All 3 then walked to the Bloor-Spadina subway. In his statement to police, David recalls saying goodbye to both girls before taking the westbound Bloor subway. Gloria Betts and Christine took the northbound. They got off at St. Clair, then boarded a westbound St. Clair streetcar. Miss Betts got off at Bathurst, leaving Christine to continue 2 more stops. The time was approximately 1:40 a.m. At a street named Witchwood, Christine got off to walk to her residence on Pinewood. She never made it home. It was raining. Mrs. Kruzek was awake until 3 a.m. and heard nothing more unusual than a car door closing at around 2. At about 7:20 the next morning, the Kruzek's 3-year-old daughter Nicole woke them up to say that Christine was not in her room. At 8 a.m. that same day, Mr. Kruzik contacted Gloria Betts and told her that her friend was missing. Who murdered Christine Prince and why? Those are the questions. When we come back, we'll discover how the umbrella we mentioned earlier was traced back to the nanny through 3 different people. We'll learn how a tire track found at the scene of the crime was important to the police investigation. And we'll hear how one young girl's story led police to a man who may have witnessed the attacker. On the morning following the murder, Monday, June 21st. And it was because of that rain that Dominic Gerard Dodds, who cuts grass along Highway 401, returned to his car and went home after arriving for work. When he returned to try again, he parked his car in the exact same spot. In the meantime, the body had not yet been discovered.
Well, I spotted a wallet on the side of the road there, and it was standing in a teepee fashion. Well, I was assigned to cut grass along the 401, just east of Conlin Road. I went out there to pick up my tractor. And when I got back at 9 o'clock, go get my tractor and cut some more grass, that's when I first noticed it. So I looked through it, and there was some bits of like a check and some cash, and they had identification on it. So at 10:22 a.m., my tractor broke down, and I went to phone my office, and that's when I phoned the number.
The wallet, which was located on the unpaved shoulder of Highway 401, contained some identification, some cash, and a check made payable to Christine Prince. How large a search was conducted after Christine's wallet was found?
When I became involved in the investigation, the search was already in progress. That is, the search out in the Scarborough area. It involved approximately 50 officers from the 4-district area. They were searching an area north and south of the 401 highway.
And what was the outcome?
That night, the outcome was negative. There was no additional information or evidence found that evening. The search had to be called off because of darkness.
Any theories on who killed Christine Prince?
Our investigations to date indicate that likely 2 people are involved. That is, 2 males. One male is the gregarious type, or the leader. He's very aggressive. This individual is likely the person that actually killed Christine, while the other person is the non-aggressive type, likely just a follower, and has very little to do with the actual murder.
On the following day, Tuesday, after Christine's body had finally been discovered, a search of the river's edge was conducted, and scraps of a road map were discovered downstream. Pieces of Christine's clothing were found as well. Later that day, another search was conducted at approximately 12:30 p.m. 2 officers assigned to guard the scene during the investigation discovered a mauve lady's belt on top of the hill. It was later discovered that the belt was not part of the Prince evidence. However, what did prove to be of interest was a tire mark photographed just to the west of Sewell's Road, where the lane or track meets the road. At this location, there was a deep depression in the lane filled with water. The tire mark was a Bridgestone design, and the size of the element of the second rib placed the vehicle in the category of a light truck. Police visited the Climate Control Center at Toronto International Airport, where they spoke to climatologist Brian Smith. He compared several rain gauge charts. Now, because it had been raining heavily Monday afternoon, police determined the print was made after 6 p.m. Any prints earlier than that would have been washed away. It was an article in the Toronto Sun that prompted the return of the elusive umbrella.
I saw an article in the paper that they were looking for the umbrella, so I figured, well, it's better if I turn it in. I was scared at first to do that.
Nearly a week after the murder, police got a phone call from a woman who related what her young daughter had heard from a girlfriend at school. The friend said her father had told her he saw the Prince body being dumped into the river. After speaking to the woman, police immediately headed for the man's home.
I asked them what I'd done wrong, and they said no, it wasn't nothing that I had done wrong. It's possibly what I'd seen. And I said, well, they asked me if I wouldn't mind taking a trip on the 401 with them. And I said, no, I wouldn't, unless they explained to me what the situation was. And they said, did you have a daughter named Tammy? And I said, yes, I do. And they said that somewhere along the line that my daughter had been saying something at school, and somebody else's daughter's parents had made a phone call to them, and it was over an incident that I saw on the 401.
What did you see?
I saw a young man come from the north side of Shepherd through the grass field, jump a fence, and as he was jumping the fence, he grabbed the garbage bag that he was carrying. He ran in between my vehicle and 3 other cars. At the time, we were near a stop, and he hurled the median and went into the eastbound lane and run directly across south to a roadway and dropped the bag over a fence. And I just happened to turn to see, because we weren't moving yet, and he'd backed up from the fence, and he hurled it like a high jumper, and he'd gone down to the ground and grabbed the bag, and he started running up the road.
A check was made at 42 Division to see if any housebreaks had occurred in the area around this time. There was the possibility that the suspect could have been running from the scene of a crime. There is also the significance of the time frame of what the witness says occurred. It would have happened just prior to the time that Christine's wallet was found. When we come back, we'll probe the importance of reporting a crime, any crime, to the police as soon as it occurs. 3 women who were assaulted did, thus giving police a chance to compare their attacks with that of Christine. Could it have been the same attacker? April 10th, 1982, a similar incident occurred here on Connaught Circle in Toronto. It's just around the corner from where Christine Prince lived. A woman reported the encounter to police immediately after it happened. She was on her way home from work when a man apparently approached her from a darkened garage on the south side of the street. She threatened him with her umbrella and he fled. On June 22nd, she reported seeing the same man on a Vaughan Road bus, certain that she was being followed. Both incidents occurred after midnight. Metro Police learned about another incident that was disturbing but potentially important. It also involved 2 British nannies who were reluctant to come forward for fear of losing their jobs. It was perhaps understandable, but this incident occurred during the same time period, June 12th, and involved a suspect described as male, white, stocky build, and light brown hair. The girls related the incident discreetly to another nanny, who in turn related the occurrence to her employer. The employer then wisely informed the police. Was this attack committed by the same suspect? The 2 nannies gave this account to Metro Police.
I want to go back to your place with you.
No!
It's cold. Take me home.
No!
Damn, it's cold out here.
Well, he was definitely a Canadian and about 5'8", 200 pounds, you know, fat, heavy guy, and very fair hair, and I'd say about 22, 26 years old.
What was he wearing?
Fairly new blue jeans and a dark pullover type sweatshirt, jumper thing, and oh, he had his sleeves rolled up to his elbows.
The strangest part was that during the attack, the guy kept saying that it was cold, that it was very cold, but it was quite mild for that time of year.
If you or anyone you know have any information at all that may help police find the attacker of Christine Prince, call the Metro Toronto Police Homicide Squad at 967-2375 or your local police department. Your calls will be held, of course, in strict confidence. A $50,000 reward is being offered by the Metropolitan Toronto Police for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person responsible for her murder. Again, the police are asking for your assistance in solving this brutal crime. When we come back, we'll look into ways to prevent a crime before it happens.
Wanted on 2 counts of murder and attempted murder, Kuldip Singh Samra. Samra is 5'8", weighing 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. There is noticeable scar tissue and disfigurement of the right thumb, a scar over his left eye, and he sniffs frequently as if suffering from nasal congestion. A $25,000 reward is offered for information leading to the arrest of Samra. Consider this man armed and extremely dangerous. If located, please call your local police or the Metro Toronto Police Homicide Squad at 967-2375.
Lie awake at night wondering what you'll find damaged or missing in the morning at your business? Let's find out how to make after-hours calm hours for you and every business owner. Good interior and exterior lighting is essential for business security. The only way to get rid of shadows for the criminal to hide in is to provide high-intensity lighting. So, have a night light inside the building. Put a light over the safe if it's in view. Install a light at each entry point, and keep alleys and the rear of the store well lit. The condition and quality of doors is extremely important. Remember, hollow doors offer hollow protection. One way to provide resistance against drilling and sawing is to use metal lining on all door exteriors. Check door frames for looseness, rotting, or the possibility of expanding. One of the best business crime preventions is the installation of bars on the inside of rear doors, preventing easy entry. And above all, get into the habit of routinely ensuring that all doors are locked up at closing time. The outside of your business plays just as important a role in deterring crime as the interior. And the worst thing that you, the owner, can provide for the intruder is hiding places. Weeds, shrubbery, and debris can all form a kind of protective blanket for the criminal. Keep all of it, decorative or otherwise, away from windows and doors. Displays that tower over windows also provide their own special brand of protection for intruders. Avoid them. And if for some reason an unwanted visitor manages to come unprepared, why provide him with leverage? Lock up ladders and any potential break-in tools that might come in handy. If a burglary does occur, telephone police immediately. Leave the crime scene undisturbed until police arrive. In the meantime, prepare yourself to give information on what's missing, and make certain to discuss your losses only with the authorities. Every business has valuable equipment, typewriters, adding machines, etc., even photocopiers. Operation identification is a crime prevention technique designed for both businesses and residences. Obtain an identification number, then mark all your valuables with it and put the warning sticker in your window. For more information on how to join Operation Identification, contact your local police. It works. Remember, crimes against business are usually crimes of opportunity. Windows, for instance, should offer light, ventilation, and visibility, not easy access. Burglar alarms should be checked regularly to make sure they're working. And if you own a safe, don't hide it. In that way, it won't become an unwelcome opportunity for criminal activity. All it takes is a little common sense to protect your business. Work with the police to prevent crime. I'm Patrick Conlon for Citizens Alert.
Transportation for the cast and crew of Citizens Alert provided by Thrifty Rent-A-Car. For reservations or information, look in your yellow pages for the location nearest you.
Tomorrow, tune in global for the 2 sailings of the Love Boat. First, Don Adams and Juliet Mills are writers planning to wrap up their last assignment and their marriage as well. Then, Doc's nephew Willie Ames is stealing time with Michelle Phillips and stealing his thunder to boot. Global's got 2 sailings of the Love Boat on Saturday at 7 and 9. Stay tuned for the best of Carson following this Global News Update.